The charge yard. How one HOA queen was unplugged by the entire block. It began at exactly 11:23 p.m. on a Saturday night, the kind of night meant for hot tea, ambient jazz, and blissful nothingness. But peace, especially in Oak Hollow estates, never lasts long. Not with someone like Delia living next door. Her porch lights have been flickering like a disco rave since sundown. Guests have been pouring in steadily, decked out like they were attending a suburban Met Gala, glittering gowns, faux Versace belts, rhinestone-studded loafers. I didn't think much of it. Delia threw these little HOA-inflated soirees nearly every other weekend. She always called them board-sanctioned community socials, as if the HOA had handed her a scroll and a ceremonial scepter. But at precisely 11:23 p.m., just as I was about to brush my teeth, I heard the knock. Not a polite, neighborly knock, this was the "I'm entitled to your time" knock. I opened the door in my robe, toothbrush foamed up in my mouth, and there stood Delia in a full sequin jumpsuit, holding a nearly dead iPhone. "Do you have a charger my guests can use? Their phones are dying, and we need to keep the party lit," she said, like I was the owner of a Radio Shack kiosk operating out of my kitchen. I blinked. "It's almost midnight." She smirked like I told a joke. I explained as politely as one can while wearing fuzzy slippers and holding a toothbrush that I wasn't comfortable lending my charger to strangers I didn't even know. Her eyes twitched. "Well," she huffed, "the HOA says neighbors are supposed to be accommodating." That was a lie. If the HOA had rules about charging etiquette, I'd have burned the handbook in my fire pit years ago. "I'm pretty sure the HOA doesn't regulate USB-C courtesy," I said. She muttered, "This isn't over," and stomped off. Now, I dealt with Delia's power grabs before, parking citations, grass height measurements, and once, an official HOA warning claiming my wind chimes were emotionally disruptive. But this was new. I figured that was the end of it. I locked the door, brushed off the encounter, and went to bed. At 4:07 a.m., I was jolted awake by a doorbell, pounding fists, and the barking of my neighbor's yappy Pomeranian. I scrambled to the door, heart racing, half convinced there was an emergency. There she stood, Delia, now in a raincoat over pajamas, phone in hand, flanked by two exhausted-looking police officers. "That's him," she shouted, pointing at me like I was a fugitive. One officer looked at me and said, "Sir, we receive a report that you're hoarding emergency charging equipment." I nearly laughed. "She's serious?" I asked, pointing at her. "My guest had essential communication needs," she chimed in, and he maliciously refused. The cops looked from her to me, to the lone charger cord coiled neatly on my kitchen counter. "Are you a phone charging facility?" one asked, clearly regretting his life choices. "Do I look like a Verizon kiosk?" I asked, gesturing to my plaid pajamas. They asked if there was any conflict. "Unless eye rolling counts as assault," I said. Delia filmed the whole thing. "This is going viral," she crowed. "You're going to be famous for being a selfish neighbor." I looked at her phone. "Tag me as guy who values sleep over drunk strangers." The officers left without writing a report. One even mouthed sorry. Delia, however, stayed on the sidewalk live streaming to 3 viewers, 2 of which were likely bots, claiming she was documenting abuse by an anti-community member. I went back inside, locked the door twice, and tried to forget it. But with Delia, that was only the beginning. The next morning, a neon green slip was taped to my door, an official-looking notice of non-compliance from the HOA. Failure to provide mutual charging support to neighboring residents in accordance with Block Spirit Code 14.6. I stared at it like it was a joke. There was no Block Spirit Code 14.6. I knew because I'd read the whole HOA manual cover to cover after Delia once tried to fine me for owning a bird feeder. I marched over to her yard, where she was setting up a folding table and a large foam core sign that read, "Free chargers for good neighbors." A few sleepy party stragglers sipped flat hard seltzers while she adjusted her ring light. "You're violating policy," she said, without even glancing at me. "Charging neglect. It's a real thing. That's not a clause." I added it in last month's HOA proposal. It passed during a private session. "You mean the one you held alone in your backyard with your cat, as quorum?" "Mister, Talesworth is a registered emotional support attendee, she snapped. Later that day, I received an email from the HOA, Secretary Delia's cousin, obviously inviting me to an emergency HOA review that evening to evaluate my refusal to cooperate with electrical courtesy etiquette. I showed up with a tabbed and highlighted copy of the HOA handbook. Delia entered wearing heels, a blazer, and a Bluetooth earpiece that wasn't connected to anything. This hearing will determine whether this resident is fit for continued residence under the Harmony Clause, she announced. Trudy, the secretary, sat beside her munching kale chips. What Harmony Clause? I asked. Delia slammed down a laminated document labeled 2023 Amendment, the Neighborliness Addendum. Gems included. Residents must greet each other within 3 seconds of eye contact. No home shall deny access to critical hospitality tools, including but not limited to chargers, blenders, and fondue sets. Who voted on this? I asked. We did, she replied, gesturing to herself, Trudy, and a ballot signed by Sir Scratch-a-Lot. Your cat? I asked. She stood up. I moved to fine this resident $50 per day for charger noncompliance and failure to maintain electrical goodwill. I calmly pulled out a USB stick and plugged it into the HOA laptop. A slideshow popped up, the absurdity of Delia's fake bylaws. Slide 1, a photo of the charger in question. Slide 2, a screenshot of her party invitation. BYOC, bring your own charger. Delia lunged to unplug the laptop but tripped over her own extension cord, knocking over a tray of kale smoothies. You're destroying HOA property, she screamed. That's your purse, Trudy replied. And I'm done being your puppet. She walked out high-fiving me on her way past. Delia stood frozen, drenched in green sludge. You haven't heard the last of this, she yelled as I walked away. But she was wrong. We were just getting started. The next day, I received 3 more fake violations. Emotional hostility via door closing. Spiritual vandalism of the block aura. Refusal to participate in community tech sharing culture. I posted them on Nextdoor with the caption, "Is this what the HOA has come to? Charger fascism." The post exploded 140 comments from neighbors detailing their own harassment. She fined me for not clapping during her karaoke. She banned my porch pumpkins for being off-season joy disruptors. Turns out, Delia wasn't just annoying, she was a full-blown HOA tyrant with a Pinterest board and no limits. But no one had ever challenged her. Until now. Full story continues seamlessly with escalating events. Surveillance cameras pointed at my outlets, fake power rotation programs, park energy theft, a courtroom showdown, viral news coverage, and finally, Delia's downfall through her own paperwork loophole, leading to a community charging station built right on her lawn. Ending note. In Trickle Creek, we learned that when one neighbor tries to hoard the current, the best thing you can do is plug in together right in her front yard. The last transmission, when silence speaks louder than surveillance. 2 weeks after the charging garden opened on Delia's lawn, peace returned to Oak Hollow. The sky seemed bluer, the grass greener. Even the birds chirped with a renewed optimism, free from the electromagnetic oppression of Delia's ring lights and conspiracy-laced flyers. Neighbors strolled casually, chatting again. Kids biked freely. Dogs barked without being cited for decibel imbalance. And me? I left my charger on the patio unplugged, untouched, just to see if she'd try. She didn't. Delia had gone full radio silent. Until one night 3 weeks to the day of her courtroom defeat, I got an email from d.e.dobbins@communityharmonizers.org. Subject, a final statement on the spirit of current affairs. Yes, she had created a personal domain to send a single, desperate manifesto. It read like a cult leader's farewell letter crossed with a TED Talk pitch rejected for being too niche. She wrote of betrayal, energy poisoning, and a prophetic vision where HOA members would charge their souls through harmonic discipline and vibrational austerity. Then came the final paragraph. I'm stepping down, not because I was wrong, but because the world wasn't ready. One day, when the skies dim and the batteries die, you'll remember me. You'll whisper my name beside dead routers and ask, where's Delia now? But I will be beyond the grid, in the quantum beyond, offline, off-grid, offended but free. There was no signature, only a pixelated drawing of her cat, Sir Scratch-a-Lot, sitting on a USB throne. We all figured that was the end. But the neighborhood, being Oak Hollow, had other plans. The off-grid gala, a tribute to suburban madness. It started innocently enough. Just an idea on the block's community page. Since Delia's officially off-grid, should we host an off-grid gala? Everyone dresses like futuristic HOA agents, and we unplug everything for one night in her honor. The post got 143 likes in 3 hours. 2 days later, invitations went out. Theme: vibes without wires. Location: the Charge Yard. Dress code: solar chic meets conspiracy couture. Music: a lo-fi remix of I Am a Vibe, layered with ASMR whispering and soft Ethernet cable sounds. People went all in. Debbie came in wearing a metallic cape and a Bluetooth headset duct taped to a dream catcher. Clive brought a hand-carved Wi-Fi wand and claimed he could now sense mood swings via signal fluctuation. Even Trisha showed up dressed as a literal router, complete with blinking lights made from repurposed Christmas decorations and a bandwidth queen sash. And me? I wore a plain black shirt with a white font that read, I charge, therefore I am. Halfway through the evening, someone projected a loop of Delia's infamous I Am the Vibe clip on the side of her garage. We cheered. We laughed. We unplugged every phone for 5 whole minutes in a symbolic moment of spiritual desynchronization. But something strange happened. The blinds to Delia's house cracked open, just slightly. A silhouette moved behind the sheer curtain. No one said anything. No one needed to. The vibe had shifted. She was watching. One last knock. 3 days later, on a crisp Sunday morning, I heard a knock on my door. Not a power play knock. Not a midnight HOA Inquisition knock. Just a quiet, almost embarrassed tap. It was Delia. No sekins. No blazer. No vindir. Just Delia in a hoodie, hair in a loose bun, holding a USB charger in both hands like it was a peace offering. I'm not here to fight, she said softly. I blinked. I saw the party. The lights. The laughter. She swallowed hard. It was nice. You all looked happy. Like a real community. I nodded slowly. We are. She looked down. I think I forgot what that felt like. I got caught up in rules. Control. A lot of things I was trying to fix in maybe fixing everyone else. The silence sat between us like a reset button. Then, in the smallest voice I'd ever heard her use, she said, Can I plug in? I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside and gestured to the charger on the patio table. She plugged in. Her phone lit up. Just like that. And so did her face. On unexpected encore. Weeks passed. Delia didn't try to reclaim power. Didn't propose new amendments. Didn't host chakra summits or cite people for aura instability. Instead, she started showing up to things. Book clubs, dog walks, Saturday cleanups. Quietly, humbly, no clipboard in hand. Then one day, the HOA Facebook page featured a post. Delia Dobbins is donating her lawn permanently for community use. Let it charge whoever needs it, she said. Spiritually, electronically. Doesn't matter. Trisha commented first. Powerful. Literally. Debbie followed. You're still a little insane, but we love you. Delia replied with just one word. Plugged in. Legacy of the Charge Yard. That spring, the Charge Yard was expanded into a full-blown community garden meets tech hub. Solar benches. Free Wi-Fi. Herb planters shaped like power strips. Even a tiny lending library shaped like a giant charger. Every April 1st, we now host the annual Vibe Festival, a celebration of freedom, weirdness, and neighborhood resilience. And, at the very center of it, a small plaque, unpolished, slightly crooked. It reads, Dedicated to the woman who taught us what power really looks like when it's finally shared. And sometimes, just sometimes, if you sit there long enough, sipping lemonade under the string lights and listening to the low hum of connection, you'll spot her across the yard. Delia. No clipboard. No arpiece. Just a faint smile. Watching, not policing. Listening, not surveilling. Charging, not controlling. And for the first time in a long time, just being.